Okay, ready?
Ready.
All right. Hi everyone, welcome to Coats and Jackets, and today I'm here with Audrey.
Hi everyone. It's me.
So I decided to talk to Audrey today because we've been talking at a few different friend events lately where we've been going to a bunch of the same things. And you're a really big movie buff in general person, right?
Yeah.
And I've been dying to talk about movies with someone.
Me too, actually. Yeah, it's over probably the past year we've realized that we have a lot of interests in common and have kind of, put two and two together. It's like, oh my god, we can totally nerd out together.
Yeah, and I was like, I gotta have a conversation with her and see all of her stuff.
I have some stuff.
She has some great stuff.
I've been a big horror buff for quite a while. My mom knew that I was doing this video today, and she said that I had to give her a shout out because she's the one who got me into liking all the horror stuff. So there you go, Mom. Shout out.
Funny thing you should say that. Mom accidentally got me into horror and everything too. She kind of wondered at one point where I got it from, and it's like, Mom, you raised me on murder mysteries. I don't remember a time before Matlock. Literally
Wow.
from infancy up, it was Matlock and Columbo and Murder, She Wrote, and just any murder mystery random movie that came on TV, she had to watch it.
That's
So that's kind of it just sort of segued, I think, from there into
into what you
Yeah.
become now.
into more horror films.
Yeah. Well, I mean, growing up, we actually didn't watch a whole lot of horror in our house. I think my dad's not a big horror fan. He just doesn't like scary stuff. But, around Halloween time, Mom would always put up, the Halloween decorations, and trick-or-treating was always fun for us and exciting. But actually watching horror movies, I was a bit of a, I remember my mom showing me the Thriller video, Michael Jackson, for the very first time. I'm not sure how old I was, but she was really excited to show it to me. And that scene where all of a sudden he turns around and he's that werewolf.
Oh yeah, and he's got the eyes.
It scared the living daylights out of me, and Mom's like, okay, we'll turn that off then. and I remember that, but I remember being rather exhilarated by it. I was scared and I was uncomfortable, but it was kind of a rush. And that's when I kind of decided or figured out that being scared kind of gave me a bit of an adrenaline rush, which I enjoyed very much, whereas a lot of people, when they get scared, it's just uncomfortable for them. They just don't like it. I guess that's where my dad kind of comes from. But I didn't actually get into real horror probably till I was a teenager, and I discovered The Shining.
Oh, I love The Shining.
It was on TV, and I turned it on, and I didn't really know what it was. And it was that scene where Danny's in the bed, and he sees the doors of the elevator open, and all the blood rushes out, and he's screaming silently. And it terrified me, but at the same time, I was just like, what is this? And I think that was
cool.
it. That was it.
That was your moment.
That was my moment when I realized I liked scary stuff.
For me, like I said, it started with the murder mystery stuff, but Mom always liked kind of the creepy stuff. So we'd also watch Crypt Keeper the cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Early in the mornings on the weekends.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
what used to come on MTV.
Yeah. I remember that. I used to love that.
Oh yeah. And Mom and I would watch that together. Now, Mom liked things that were a little strange, a little different, a little spooky, but she wasn't super into horror. But she watched a lot of, like I said, the murder mysteries and stuff. And I got into it from there just because that was really suspenseful. And even though it was a scary thing that somebody would die, you got more so caught up in the mystery of it. And it was also not as bad because it was TV stuff, right?
Yeah.
But some of the murder mystery movies that would come on would be really intense, and there'd be stalkers and different things like that, and we'd watch them all. But over time, I don't know, I just started watching more and more spooky Halloween things and strange tales, and then it just it was not a far leap from the cartoon Tales from the Crypt to the live action one.
Wow.
Now, it used to terrify me. I would have really bad nightmares, and it started to get to a point where Mom was like, you can't watch scary stuff like that anymore because you're having too many nightmares. I won't let you do it. And then one day I saw a program on YTV. When they used to have the music video countdowns.
Yes.
What was the guy that used to do it out of a trailer?
Oh
do you
my
remember
goodness.
that? It was like a big set that was a trailer, and he'd host it from there.
Yeah, I don't remember what
He
his
had
name
a
is.
makeup effects person on as like a special guest.
Yep.
And so he was interviewing them, and they were showing different effects they did, like on the commercial breaks between the music videos and stuff. And ever since I saw that and saw like how the stuff was done, it didn't frighten me anymore because I suddenly knew like what it was.
Yeah.
It was just enough that I get caught up enough in the story to find it like suspenseful and exhilarating without like being scared anymore.
Right.
So that was how I like started watching everything again.
That's so great. Well, going back to once again when we were kids, every Monday night, me, my mom, and my sister would watch Buffy.
Oh
every
my
Monday
gosh.
night, and I mean,
If anybody called when Buffy was on, I was like, Mom, I'll call them back on commercial break.
honestly, I was the same way. I remember I had just started dating. I was about 15, 16, I guess, and the guy who I was dating called me at 8:35 on Monday night.
Sacrilege.
Right?
It came on at 8:30 on ASN.
Exactly, and I remember answering the phone quite annoyed and said, yeah, I'll call you back. And it was just like, it was not a big deal to me whatsoever, but to him it was just like...
Oh yeah, anybody new called, it was like, it must
Yeah.
be somebody asking about homework or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, take a number and I'll call on commercial break. Because
Yeah.
anybody that really knew me, like my friends, they would call on commercial breaks because they knew. And one of them too watched Buffy with me. So she would call me like on the commercial and be like, did you just see? And it's like, okay, we gotta go. It's coming back on.
Oh, that's great. And we used to watch Goosebumps every week. And also, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
That was the big one. That
Yes.
one's Canadian. Are You Afraid of the
Oh,
Dark?
and we loved it every single week. Like even the reruns, we'd watch it.
Yeah,
Just
and
became a
Are You
ritual.
Afraid of the Dark was out before Goosebumps
Yeah.
TV series.
Mhm.
And it was better. It was definitely better. Like there was something weird and creepy and slightly more chilling than the way they did the Goosebumps
Yeah.
TV series.
Mhm.
I think they did the Goosebumps TV series with the mind that young children will be watching it, whereas the books read a little scarier.
Yes, and I can see that for sure. Anybody who knows me knows that I love horror. Like, it's my life. It's everything that I love. But sometimes I'll mention a movie and they're like, well, that's not scary. I'm like, but that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be scary to be a good movie, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, and you really love film.
I love
in
film in general.
yeah.
I will literally watch anything that anybody hands to me. Give it a chance at least.
Case in point, the French weird version from 2012 of
The
Beauty and the
Beauty and the
Beast.
Beast. That was pretty weird.
That was super weird,
Yeah.
but it was random, and I was like, I want to see what this is, because Netflix is great for that. You can just like randomly put on almost anything.
Right, exactly.
So you've come up with a list of some of your favorite films,
I
right?
have, yes.
I'm excited. I don't know anything about this. We've been keeping it a secret
We
so you
have.
can surprise me.
Yep, and it was really hard list to come up with because there's more than 10 movies that I love. And for the past few weeks, it's been kind of going back and forth, changing my list. But I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. So these are the movies that I find myself going back to, probably about once a year. These are the ones that, when I'm not really sure what I'm in the mood for. One of these movies is probably going to be the one that I'm going to put into the DVD player. So, in no particular order.
Staple picks. Let's do it.
Let's see, I'm just going to pick one here and we'll just start talking about it. The Omen, the original one.
I was going to say, is that the original or the new? I haven't seen the new one, but I've seen the original.
I have not seen the new one, but I have a few little notes here. I didn't write it down. Crap. This is the one that I forgot to write down about. But no, this is the original one that starred Gregory Peck. The Omen. I always come back to it because, bizarrely not, I'm not a religious person in any way. It just, we were never really brought up in a religious household. It was never something that was brought up. But horror movies, or movies in general, that kind of have like a creepy religious, I don't even want to say undertone, because this is pretty much in your face.
Yeah, it's
religion. It's about the Antichrist. But anything that has to do with religion always kind of creeped me out more than like any zombie or ghosts.
It's strange because if you take it on its own, like, and ignore the religious sort of background of it, it does this sort of almost like cult but not cult thing.
Yeah.
And it's very strange and intense. Like, even if you've like grown up with it has this weird vibe to it.
It really does, and it's just I don't know. It's just I love it so much. The kid barely says 2 words in the whole film, and I mean, for the most part, he just acts like a normal kid. But like every once in a while, something will happen, and he'll just turn around and just look at the camera, and it's just like, whoa, where did they find this kid? I mean, like it's crazy, but yeah, that's definitely one of my all-time favorites is the Omen, the original one. All right, so we'll go on to the next one here, which is one of my all-time favorites, as per usual, is the original Fright Night from 1983, starring Chris Sarandon, who is one of my favorites.
The 80s movies are so weird, man.
Oh,
80s horror
God.
was all its own thing. It was
really
all
was.
cheese and flash and camp, but like
But
in
I
a
love
good
it.
way. It's got good stories
I
somehow.
love
still.
it. And I mean, the music is so bad and cheesy,
Oh,
but
yeah.
like, it's on my iPod.
Yeah, it suits it in a weird, catchy way, man.
Yeah, it was so great, and you know, I mean, like it's the classic story of, you know, the teenager who lives at home sees something funny happening next door. He's convinced that his neighbor is a vampire, but nobody else believes him, and it's this whole journey of trying to convince everyone and trying to out his neighbor as being a vampire, but everything kind of turns flat, and everybody thinks he's crazy, and you know, he ends up doing some of this like crazy stuff, like breaking into his neighbor's house to get proof, and it just ends up being it's so great. The makeup effects are great. Like one of my favorite things in a lot of like 80s horror movies are the practical effects.
Yeah, it's when they really started taking it to the next
Exactly,
level.
you know, the rubber blood and guts and the fake and the animatronics and all that kind of stuff, which you don't really see a whole lot anymore. A lot of things are
You
digital.
don't. I find like nowadays it's best when the movies are made with a pairing of the practical effects
Yeah.
and digital,
Mhm.
because like digital can smooth things over and make the environment more believable,
Mhm.
and then the practical effect has a weight to it. Like even if there's gloss over it from the digital, and you can tell, there's something in the lighting that's still not quite right with digital
Yeah.
effects.
Yeah, I agree.
And practical effects have like this weight and presence to them that just like makes it feel more real. So when you mix
Yeah.
the two, it really blurs that line
Yeah.
between like fantasy and reality.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and this movie has lots of practical effects, a lot of, you know, big fangs and big monster faces and werewolves and all that cheesy glory. Like that's my absolute favorite. So yeah, we'll keep going down the list here. One that I actually watched the other night and have been talking to everyone about this past week is the original An American Werewolf
This
in
is
London.
one of my all-time favorites too.
And once again, with the practical effects. I think
This is my
was-
favorite practical effect thing ever. And this is actually a movie I used to own that I have missing. And I used to have like a really special edition version of it where it did the behind the scenes and showed you how they
Yes.
did the stuff with like the documentary.
Incredible, yeah.
And the fact that he set up the camera and they stretched out this piece a little bit and then paused filming and then stretched it out and then like, so it was done so that they were moving it so it was almost a continuous shot.
Yes.
So that parts of it were done like in where the snout grows. I'll never forget. Like the rest of it was like sort of stop motion put
Yeah.
together, but the snout was one movement. Like
Yeah.
it was just one continuous shot because they had to make that mold.
Exactly.
That special material. It took them forever to come up with it
Well,
so
yeah.
that they could like make it move so it didn't look stop motion, so that it was seamless.
Yeah, and they said that they also had a bit of an issue with it because they were stretching it out so much. It was kind of, he said it was turning into like goop after a while. So they only had so long with that particular prosthetic before it just completely just disintegrated.
So they basically had to like do it all in one take. It was
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah, and I mean,
Careful, then suddenly there appeared before me the only one I
first time that a werewolf transformation in film was done that way, where you saw the bones
it was always a cutaway
crunch and the
a
limbs
shadow.
stretching and whatnot, or it'd be like cutaways, it'd be like
and you just see like a shadow move and change. But this was one of the first times, or they'd like do that phase thing and then like slowly be hair.
I mean, that's great too, but this was
an amazing effect.
The first time I saw that transformation, I mean, my mouth was hanging on the floor. I mean, it was incredible, and it's a long scene too. Like it's a couple minutes long.
Scene, and the build up to it, because he doesn't actually start to be a werewolf till the end.
Exactly.
So it's like the last half hour is your big like werewolf moment, and everything is like leading up to that slowly with hints and clues. It's so suspenseful.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like literally the last 5-10 minutes of the film where he full transformation, goes absolutely crazy, and like goes on a rampage in the middle of Piccadilly Circus, London. Like it's crazy, and I loved it so much. Yeah, good. That was a good one, eh? Yeah. All right, so next I guess we will go with 1983, I think, John Carpenter's The Thing. More practical effects.
Yeah.
Because I can't help it. I mean, this is such a great film, and I actually only just saw this film probably for the first time maybe 10 years ago. There was this whole thing, they were advertising it going to be playing on Spike TV one night, and I had never seen it, and I was kind of curious about it, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like I honestly thought that it was just going to be a pretty tame, uninteresting film. I don't know why I thought that. But I remember putting it on and sitting there, and I don't know.
It is far from tame.
It is far from tame. I mean, that first scene where the doctor is about to try to restart his heart.
Yes.
With I don't know what those are called. Those medical things.
The shock paddles.
Yes. And both of his arms,
like
the guy's chest opens up with these giant teeth, and the doctor loses his arms. Like, it was so shocking to me. I was just like, what am I watching? And I remember my dad walking down the stairs at the same time, and I know my dad doesn't like scary stuff. And the first thing I said to my dad is like, don't look! Don't look! I remember telling him, he's just like, why? And of course he had to peer, and he's like, oh, gross. You know, he left the room, but I mean, that was crazy to me. I mean,
and where do you go from there? That's like your opener.
And that's just it. I mean, it just goes more and more insane as you go. And I mean, like, it was a legitimately suspenseful, creepy movie. Like, I find like, I know a lot of people like 80s slasher films, which I appreciate the fact that
I have a soft spot for them, but I tend to like things like An American Werewolf and like Thing and stuff like that more. It's just something about the type of suspense that's just different.
It is, because I mean, with like Friday the 13th or Halloween, like you pretty much know that like most people, or all of them, they're gonna die one way or another. Like that's the way that it is. But like with The Thing, I mean, that was kind of the same situation, but the thing was that this alien creature that they come across mimics whatever it comes in contact with, and whatever it eats, it absorbs it and mimics, and like down to everything, like they talk the same, they walk the same, everything. So you don't know who's infected, but you know something's infected because there's dead dogs. Who killed the dogs?
Yeah.
You know, it's like somebody here did it. None of us are leaving until we find out, and it's just like, it was so suspenseful. And that there's a scene where the main character is actually Kurt Russell. He goes a little crazy, and he ties down most of his crew in this one particular scene. And they figure out that fire is the way to destroy this creature. So I don't know how they came up with this. I mean, I get it, I guess. But they were going to take a blood sample from each of the crew and add a like a red hot poker to the blood to see if there was going to be a reaction.
Retreating!
And that scene just like, even now I watch it and I hold my breath. Even though I know whose blood is going to react.
You know who the alien is,
Exactly.
but you still get caught up in it.
Oh my god, it's so great. Yeah, that's a good one. Watch that one. Almost Famous.
Do you know, I still haven't seen this, and everybody tells me I should watch it, and now you're going to convince me why.
This movie brings joy to my heart. I mean, it's completely different from what I would normally consider one of my favorite films. But I mean, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Who doesn't
in the
love that?
60s, come on. I mean, it's incredible, and it's this story. I can't remember his name. It's based on a true story, but this kid, I can't remember his name. Sorry, I should have done my research. But you know, he's 14 years old or 15, and all he wants to do is be a rock journalist. That's all he wants to do. He wants to write about music, and he wants to experience it, and this is what he wants to do. And his mother, who isn't too happy about it, you know, she wants him to become a lawyer or something, you know, something that you can like have a good career with. And well, I mean, I guess good would be
Stable.
subjective to whoever. But it's the story of this kid who takes a chance, and he tries to interview Black Sabbath, but Black Sabbath won't pay any mind to him because he's just this little snot-nosed 15-year-old that doesn't know what's what. But he ends up getting kind of stuck with the opening act, which was a fictitious band called Stillwater. They're kind of intrigued by this little kid who actually knows quite a bit about them and about rock, and they're like, all right, you know what, we'll give this kid a chance, you know. I think he lies, and he says that he's a writer for the Rolling Stone magazine.
Aww.
And they kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool, you know, we'll let you in, you know. And it just kind of progresses, you know. But anyways, between the jigs and the reels, it's just kind of this really neat adventure. This kid with stars in his eyes, you know, hanging out and meeting all of his rock gods like David Bowie and all these people, and it's really quite nice. The soundtrack is amazing. It's so good, and the characters are great, and you know, and at the end, you know, he ends up getting what he wants, but it's at a price, you know. So, you know, he loses to some friends, and he ends up getting into a little bit of trouble with the actual Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So there's all this stuff. So this movie also introduced me to the brilliance of Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, he'd been in lots of things before Almost Famous, but I wasn't really too familiar with him. But he plays the character of Lester Bangs, which is, I believe he was the editor of Cream magazine, which I think was a real magazine.
It was a real magazine.
Yeah. So
in the 70s.
Yeah. And he's just, you know, he's just this, I don't want to say kind of a loser, but he kind of was a little bit, you know, and he was just like, he was trying to be really cool. This kid was too sweet for rock and roll. Like, these musicians are going to eat you alive. You know, you're going to be offered drugs. They're going to offer you all this stuff. They're going to eat you alive, you know. He was like, you're too sweet for rock and roll, you know. But, no, it was amazing. All right.
Sounds awesome.
It's good.
Something I'm gonna have to check out.
Oh my god, it's so
Can you
great.
believe I've never seen it? It's just one of those things.
Yeah. All right, and we'll go back into spooky stuff. So the next one on my list is another 1983 release, The Return of the Living Dead.
I love that cover too.
Isn't it great?
That's such a good cover.
I mean, it has all the iconic monsters from the film, the Tar Man, and Trash after she becomes a zombie. Trash is played by the incomparable Scream Queen Linnea Quigley. She's been in lots of things. I love her to death. Like, she's so good. She's known for screaming and for having her boobs out. That's kind of what she
basically
does.
what horror was in the 80s
Exactly.
too.
I mean, that's exactly what it was. But I mean, Return of the Living Dead. Once again, it's campy, it's cheesy, it's really bloody and gory, and with all practical effects. Once again, I know I keep saying the same things, but I mean, this is what I love. and it's your stereotypical zombie story. These two goofy guys who work in like a medical warehouse accidentally open up this chamber which has what looks like a human body in it, but it says, do not open. They accidentally open it, and a bunch of noxious gas comes out and knocks them both out. And of course, the noxious gas goes up into the clouds and turns into this
next thing you know, zombie apocalypse.
Acid rain, and when it rains, all the dead bodies just rise up out of the grave and just wreak havoc on everyone. And of course, the two guys who breathed in all the gas, they're also feeling pretty bad. They're like, oh, I feel so funny. My limbs really hurt, My eyes, they really hurt, I'm bruising and can't move. And, their doctor friend says, oh my God, I think you're in rigor mortis. Like, we're not dead, It's so great. It's actually one of the funnier horror movies that I've ever seen. They really do some very silly and campy things with
it's kind of horror comedy.
It is. It cracks me up. I gotta say, there's a couple of great scenes where they call for help, and so the first people that show up, I think, are cops. I can't remember, but or it was paramedics. And the paramedics come, they get out of the vehicle, and of course they're swarmed by zombies, and they are just eaten. They're eaten alive immediately, so they're gone. And then there's the next scene is a zombie crawls up into the van, gets on the radio, and says, "Send more paramedics."
Dispatch, this is Bravo 751. We're at the mortuary. We see two paramedic vehicles parked in the rear parking lot. The doors on one vehicle are hanging open. Stand by while we investigate.
Send more cops.
They send more paramedics, and of course the zombies eat them all. It's hilarious. And it also they also feature this really great monster which is called the Tar Man. I think I just said about this guy here. I'm not sure who the actor was who played the actual creature itself. But I mean, it's pretty incredible that he's tall, he's skinny. I mean, he actually looks like a corpse, and he's all covered in tar. And it's also, I think, one of the first movies that really kind of, I mean, we all know that like zombies like to eat people, but this one, Tar Man focuses in on brains. Like, brains, more brains. That's what he always, every time he sees a new person, that's what he says, brains, and then goes for their head.
Who's there?
I often wondered if that's where that
I
sort
wonder
of came
too.
from, because I mean it is kind of in like some of the Romero stuff.
Yeah.
But I always wondered if like the specific like brains thing that people always do, if that's where that sort of.
That's what I like to believe. I'm making things up as I go here, guys. But like that's what I like.
It's something
to
I
believe.
always wondered about that I'd never like quite looked into, but like it'd be interesting to know.
Brains.
Yeah.
Because like in lots of other zombie movies, I mean they eat everything. That's gross, I know, but that's the way it is.